Good afternoon, everybody. We've just got a few more people joining up. I'm going to give it just a half a minute, and then we'll officially start. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Eric Wadsworth, and I'm part of the management team at the IQ Business Group, and I'll be the moderator for today's webinar, specifically focused on document automation management, and it's the key to the full digital transformation. I'm joined today by a couple of guests, by Gerard Benadel, he's the product specialist at DocFusion, Brian Gubbins, who's the executive director at DocFusion, and my colleague Maggie Vandenberg, who's with the IQBG marketing team. Before we dive into digital transformation challenges and strategies, including how we automate or how automated document generation and management can help complete your digital transformation journey, I'd like to cover just a couple of housekeeping items. By default, all participants' microphones are muted. If you have any questions, please submit them through the webinar chat, which you should see on your screen on the side. And then today's webinar will be made available to all of the participants for replay within 24 hours, so literally tomorrow morning. And please be on the lookout for an email notification with the links attached. In short, the agenda we're going to run through today is really just a small introduction for the folks who are not aware who IQBG as a company is and what they do. And then we're going to spend most of the time on the DocFusion product, which sits within our larger product offering. IQBG is a leading provider of enterprise information management solutions for highly regulated industries and the public sector. Since 2008, IQBG has been developing ECRM and content services solutions that leverage people, process, and technology to support your requirements, and specifically in the ECRM space. We focus on your business first, including the entire records management lifecycle. That is from the capture right through to the disposable with all the steps that sit in between. And we also focus on how information management is impacted throughout all levels of the enterprise, from back-end operations to front-end as well. This allows us to focus on technology next, recommending the best possible solutions to a particular challenge. We support and utilize a number of software platforms to ensure that the solutions we propose and implement cover the full spectrum of ECRM and are suited to the particular client requirement and environment. Today, we are going to focus on the first element in the process, on the front end, the capture side, and the process before it gets into physical document management. So we'll not be capturing or speaking about the back end too much. Obviously, if you have any interest in any of these other items, you're welcome to reach out to us and we can assist. Let's frame the problem. The term digital transformation is not new and has been a buzzword for nearly 3 decades. But what does this really mean? It's important to note that digitalization, and digital transformation have been used interchangeably, and each is a process and a driver. Digitization is the process of converting information into a digital format. There are many use cases, but an overwhelming common one we support regularly is paper or physical, hence scanning of what is paper documents, records into a digital format. Digitalization is the use of digital technologies coupled with digitized data to impact how work gets done. And digital transformation is the process of integrating this digitization and digitalization and adopting technology across the enterprise. Today, digital technology is integrated into nearly every aspect of leading organizations. And without an effective digital transformation strategy to maximize the impact of digitalization, companies and agencies risk being left behind and not delivering to their key stakeholders. Of interest for today's session is the replacement of current processes requires digitization, i.e. manual paperwork followed by scanning, etc., with a technology that is more efficient, cost-effective, and adaptable to your processes. And this is the key, to fully transform across all areas of the business. All processes can be approached by leveraging ECRM to manage content and records. Think about this as the macro level, with the support of DocFusion to manage document generation and management for all use cases. Think about this as the micro level. This is manifested in a natural partnership between IQBG and DocFusion to help organizations overcome digital transformation challenges by supporting full transformation across the enterprise. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce our DocFusion partner speakers, Brian Gibbons and Gerard Benedal. Welcome, Brian and Gerard.
Thanks, Eric.
Great. Thank you, Eric, for inviting us to present the webinar. And much more importantly, thanks to all you folk who came out to listen to us. When I was growing up as a kid in Ireland, there was an advert on television. It was for electric razors. And the owner of the company appeared on the screen and said, "I like this product so much, I bought the company." And that's how we felt when we acquired a controlling stake in DocFusion just over a year ago. We really, really love this product and we think it's great. Anecdotally, another story, when I was working with PwC in London in the early 2000s, a futurist spoke to us at a conference and said that the paperless office is as far away as the automated toilet. Now, the automated toilet has been around for about 5 years, and still today, according to research firm Forrester, over 70% of business processes are still paper and email based. Thanks. Given that most organizations are more than 5 years into their digital journey, it begs the question, what does digital really mean? Document generation and storage in most companies is chaotic and unsophisticated. Document libraries are often spread across multiple employee hard drives, and document generation often as primitive as find and replace. When the first word processor, WordPerfect, came out about 30 years ago, and it didn't even give a dent to creating the digital organization. Thanks. Thanks. So DocFusion solves this problem and a lot more. We call DocFusion digital delivered. Legacy systems such as SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, and many, many more were supposed to fill this void. And whereas we see these systems as being great as optimizing internal processes, when the processes are non-standard, or if they cross organizational boundaries, the systems are really, really badly lacking. And this, I suppose, is the gap DocFusion fills. A DocFusion implementation begins by normalizing all documents in your organization, digitizing the templates using a low-code drag and drop, and that's a plug-in to Microsoft Word. It then links to legacy systems data via smart APIs, so all documents are always pre-populated with the most current information. And then DocFusion's rules engine information. Our digital signature capability allows secure signatures, after which the documents are returned to storage, time-stamped and immutable. In this way, DocFusion ensures professional, which benefits all parts of the organization. Thanks. DocFusion has coined the term the 5 pillars of digital transformation. And we see these as being digital forms, workflow, document generation, digital signatures, and document management. Whereas DocFusion can supply a full solution to all of these, we find that forms, workflow, and document management, companies normally have this available to them already. And it's a lot of the time we integrate our document generation and digital signatures elements seamlessly into the customer systems. Thanks, Eric. The benefits of using DocFusion are many, and the value proposition and return on investment, it can be measured in months as opposed to years. I suppose firstly, the customer experience is greatly enhanced along with the reputation of the company, because your customers and other external stakeholders are interacting seamlessly, efficiently, and digitally with your organization. Are immediately available to all your employees. Costs are reduced substantially because you don't need people manually inputting data, and processes are fully automated. The risk and compliance departments love DocFusion. That all the correct legals are used, the documents go through, correct approvals are used, etc. Employee engagement also, from the very start when an employee is brought on board, it's a digital interaction. Companies that are professional and operate professional. So lastly, yeah, we save millions of trees on a year. I know there are a lot of government, a lot of the examples we've given are commercial. Nonetheless, the benefits of DocFusion apply to all processes which are citizen interaction. And without further ado, I'm going to move on to a short video, which I hope explains these points. Thanks.
Gerard, I think you may be on mute.
Sorry, you can go ahead and play the video. Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, Gerard. I had a comment from someone that they were not getting the sound. If you maybe just cover what was done on the video in the next slide we can have, just to make sure it was covered. So if we can touch base on that.
Yeah. So maybe, yes, Eric. Yeah, I suppose what they say is to err is human. To really screw things up requires technology. So it will be audible for everyone. Like my mother always told me, to tell people what they're going to hear, say what you've told them they're going to hear, and then tell them what they've heard. So if you didn't hear the video, my middle part of that saying has gone missing on me. But what you should have seen is the digital assets of an organization, such as the knowledge from marketing, legal, technical, etc., are held and updated centrally. So these still are the property of the departments who own them, even though they might. The dynamic document templates are created once off with conditional logic. This conditional logic is what we call our rules engine. We can integrate via APIs into legacy systems, makes DocFusion really, really strong. And by really, really strong, it doesn't have to rip and replace anything you've got in play to become a fully digital organization. All process is managed by a workflow, which not only pulls the correct document template, also routes the document for approval and digital signature, and returns it to storage, timestamped and immutable. Thanks, Eric.
Brian, I'm just going to add a comment there. You will, for the guys that missed the sound here, we are going to have a live demo as well as we go through this, so we'll pick up on that side as well.
Thanks. I think again, one of the really exciting things about DocFusion is the speed at which you can start realizing benefit. Now, I mentioned earlier that the ROI and value proposition of DocFusion can be measured in months, opposed to years, and it's really only a matter of weeks before an organization starts to see benefits. This is obviously not the full implementation, but it will get you up and going in terms of electronic templates. Thanks. So we put some use cases together, but the fact of the matter is I think these use cases apply to most industries and most paper-based processes. So we mentioned here a client onboarding process and the time reduced by 70%. We think that where organizations have this and it's not digitized with an automated document management system, we can do that for all customer onboarding processes. The nice thing we mentioned before around DocFusion is the protection of digital assets. Therefore, if somebody in marketing, for example, changes a piece of CI, that for a logo, for example, is available immediately globally. If legal terms and conditions are changed, they're available immediately globally. There's one source of the content and one source of where the document resides. And again, the legal and compliance benefits of this are huge. Insurance product time to market and the cut down on that. Again, it's anything complex that is paper-based that requires customers to understand, sign, and store. We can do that with anything. The productivity improvements, I think they've been obvious again to the previous presentation, but Forrester does say that knowledge workers spend 25% of their time locating and updating document templates. So obviously with DocFusion, that time is saved. The reason we put this commercial property finance example in place was really to show you the power of the rules engine. This was taking this bank about 3 months to get a commercial property finance deal done out there. And 1 month of that was spent with the lawyers getting legal advice. So we programmed all those rules into the property finance deals themselves and documentation themselves and brought this down to a couple of weeks. A point we haven't talked about much is bulk document generation. So DocFusion is great not only at individual personalized documents, but also bulk personalized documents. And often these have got to be sent out physically to clients. And DocFusion is really, really good at tracking and tracing these documents as well. So I think that's it for me at this point. I'm going to hand over to Gerard, who's going to bring us through a live demo of the system, and then we move into question time.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me for the demo. The demo will show you the end-to-end development of a labor contract between an organization and a future employee. This is a process applicable to all organizations. Just a bit of an agenda on the demo. For context, we'll just have a look at the digital form where we capture our data with a quick overview of the data fields.
Sorry to interrupt, Gerard. It's very small on my screen. I know, is it small on everyone's?
Is this better?
Yep, that looks good.
All right. Okay, so once we have had an overview of the data fields, we'll move on to the document template. I'll show you what designing the template would look like. We'll then come back to the form, update some data fields, and then generate our contract. Even though this is at the lower level of complexity in terms of what DocFusion's features are, it does give an overview of the main capabilities, which you can in turn apply to your own landscape. So here we are on our digital form. This is where your data would be housed. It represents any system that you are currently using to capture and maintain your data. In our scenario for this demo, HR will fill in the data that will produce our bespoke contract between the company and the employee. Immediately you can see we already have a couple of different types of contracts available. Any document or template you've got in your central DocFusion repository will be available organization-wide, and then the employees you expose these documents to will be able to use them as the source of truth. For this demo, we're doing a labor contract, and we'll do that contract for myself. It's a quick overview of the data fields. We've got the generic stuff. It goes in a contract: company name, employee details. Down here, we've got some employment details. These will materially affect the output of the document. Our main differentiator between the contract, two different versions of the contract we'll be looking at, will be a fixed term contract for an employee versus a permanent contract for an employee. These will be determined by the employment term. If we define this term, say for 12 months, we know it's a fixed term. If we keep it on 0 months, then we know it's a permanent employee. We'll get back to this a bit later. Here we just have a list of responsibilities that'll go in the contract. We'll have the bonus schemes for the person, and then the attachments will come here once the document has been generated. Let's move on to the document repository now. So this is DocFusion's repository. This is where you will store and manage your organization's templates. It also gives you full auditing capabilities on your templates. Here you control who has access to edit which documents. You can see who changed the document. You can see when it was changed. If you look at the versions, I do apologize for it being a bit small, but I'm already on version 23 of the template we are looking at. In our experience, we've seen organizations where the main way of work is where employees have local copies of documents that they use on a daily basis. So they store these on their hard drives, something like that. Or worse, even maybe sometimes they've got the paper-based contracts that have to be completed by hand. So you can imagine the mess when 100 employees each have their own copy of the same document, which they update according to what suits their immediate needs. They send these to clients, pretty much do with them as they want to. There's no way for legal or marketing to actually keep control over these documents. This is the problem that, amongst others, DocFusion will take care of for you by becoming the central document template repository. There will now be one source of truth that all the employees can use. Here, we'll edit our template from the repository, and that This template will be used to generate all employee contracts of this type for the entire organization. Our document opened in Microsoft Word, and we'll navigate to the DocFusion menu item. So here I'm going to show you how the template is designed. This design takes off is a once-off process. Once you've designed it, built in the rules, you only need to maintain it afterwards if content changes or maybe a data field gets added or anything like that. When we look at the document, we'll see we already have some nice content to work with. So this represents the current document your organization already has. You can use the current stuff you've got and build from there. You can also start on a clean slate with your Microsoft Word document and develop it as you need it. So keep in mind in this case, HR owns this template. Only they will have access to edit this template like I'm doing now. And by the same tune, the logos you see up here will be owned by marketing. And if marketing doesn't update to the logo, it'll automatically reflect on all the templates that these logos are used in. So normally the first thing we want to do when we start building our template is we want to connect our template to our data. So that is the digital form you just looked at. For this, we go to the data schema, and that's going to open our data model menu on the right-hand side here. We have various connectors available, some generic stuff, OData, REST, SharePoint, and so forth. We also have an API should you prefer to use that method. What even though I've already connected the data for us, I'm going to show you how it is done. We click on our OData property. It's going to ask me for a URL. This is going to connect to where your data is housed. I'm going to connect. It's going to ask me for a password since it's authenticated. That means no random people will be able to access your data. You'll specifically need access to get to this point. We are now querying the data store to see what my username has access to, and it'll only return those fields. So different areas can have access to different data fields. HR won't see legal and so forth. Here we'll quickly recognize the fields we just saw on the front end, and from here we can actually populate them or populate our data model binding on the right hand side here. And now our data fields are ready to be mapped on our document. If we scroll down, we can see we need a company name down here, just as an example. We can either scroll and search for the company name in here, or we can use the filter to actually just look for it. DocFusion will show us what you're looking for. Mapping is as simple as clicking on it, dragging, and dropping. From now on, when this document is generated, it will replace the company name in this slot. We can see we have other data fields mapped already. But since it's difficult to see as is, I'm going to go ahead and close this and open our hierarchy. The hierarchy represents the fields that have been mapped on the document already, whereas the data model shows you what you have available. You do not necessarily have to use or will use all of those fields. So we can see company name down here. If I click on that, DocFusion will navigate to us in the schema, so we can quickly track down fields we are looking for. We can also filter up here if we are looking for a specific field that has been mapped on a document. Next control I quickly want to show you is what we call an optional. So if we scroll down, we see, I do apologize for highlights, it's just so we can very quickly identify what we are looking at. So we've got two clauses here. One refers to a fixed term and one refers to a non-fixed term, which is also permanent. We're going to go ahead and highlight this section. We're going to declare it as an optional value. I'm going to click these three buttons, which will open the rule editor for us. As you see, we have got quite a lot of features there. Can't go through everything tonight, but we're quickly going to build the rule that's going to determine whether that clause shows or not. So we're using the employment term data field. Just going to make this a bit bigger. Here we've got the employment term data field, and we know this is a fixed term. So that means if that field does not equal 0, which means it has a value, it has a term, then we are going to show this optional. Inversely, this one will only display if the term does not have a value, i.e. the employee is permanent. When this optional collapses, it's going to take its own space with it. So that means all subsequent content on the document will move up into the space where this clause was. That means there's going to be no white space on your documents and they're going to keep on looking great. When I scroll down, our next control is what we call a repeater. I'm going to click on this. You'll see we have an optional, we have the repeater represented by the red one, and we have the responsibilities data field mapped. The repeater will literally does what the name says. It's going to repeat your data in sequence as we captured it on our front end. On the form, we looked at responsibilities and we looked at the bonus schemes. Both of those are defined as repeaters, and they will list every single responsibility you have captured, one below the other, and the numbering will be done in sequence as well. If you have 100 of them, we'll expand the document to fit all 100 of them, and they will be numbered accordingly. As you see, we put an optional over this whole section. This optionals rule says that if there are no responsibilities captured, we need to collapse this section. We don't want to show unnecessary content. That keeps the documents clean, and if you ever do have to print anything, then you only show the necessary stuff and you reduce the amount of pages that you would use when you print by not showing any unnecessary stuff. So we've got the optional that will hide the section if it does not have any data. Scrolling down a bit, we come to our salary. So the salary will normally just be an amount, a bunch of numbers the system sends through. We've got a function in DocFusion we call adornments, and you can think of this as conditional formatting. This number we want to display as a currency because someone's going to get paid. So for that, we use our format number, we define it as a currency, and you can basically configure what you want your currency to look like. It could be US dollars, it could be pounds, it could be euros, based on the location the document's getting generated in. So your adornments will help you with that. We apply adornments to dates to make sure all the dates look the same. And these adornments can be reused through your entire organization. Even if you have 1,000 templates, all of them can use the same adornment, and that'll keep the standards across the whole organization. Once again, this can be different per region, even if you want to. If they prefer a month instead of the day first, you can use the format date adornment to govern that. We'll also put our salary in words, which is an automatic feature by DocFusion, and I'll show you that a little bit later. We do have, over 70 different adornments to choose from. So your imagination would be your limit in this case, in terms of what you can do with the documents. That includes creating unique barcodes on the documents as well. I'm going to go ahead and close the adornment section. So now that we've done with our salary, I'm going to go down, just have a quick look at our next one. So this is just another optional clause that is just relevant to permanent employees. I also want to bring your attention to the fact that this is numbered. So if this clause gets hidden for a fixed term employee, the non-solicitation clause will take its place. The non-solicitation clause will then become Article 9, and then penalty clause, Article 10, so on and so forth. Word and DocFusion will make sure your numbering will always remain logical. Scroll down, we've got one more, which is our second repeater, which is bonus type. Same rule that it'll only display if they have data for that. All right. Now that our template's ready, we can go back to our digital form and see the results when we update data. So keep in mind all the rules we were looking at. Right, we're gonna edit my record. So I've taken the liberty, okay, so as I mentioned, the main differentiator is the fixed term versus non-fixed term, or the permanent versus fixed term contracts. So I've taken the liberty to pre-generate us a non-fixed term or permanent contract. So let's update the data for a fixed term contract. In that sense, we're going to set the term to 12 months. So it's a 1-year contract, and I'm starting on Monday. I want 45 holiday days per year, and I want a ridiculous salary. And this is going to test our number to words adornment. Right, so I'm going to save this. Responsibilities, let's add one. So I want to make coffee for the team. And the bonus scheme, because since I'm getting a ridiculous salary, I'm going to take away the bonus scheme, and this is going to hide that section on the document. Let me open this one in the meantime, but I'm going to generate our contract for us. Just going to minimize this. The digital form is currently generating the contract from the document repository. We told it I want a employment contract. So this is generating that contract via our DocFusion cloud instance, which is hosted in Microsoft Azure. This can be hosted on-premise if you wish. We have hybrid solutions for you if you want to host the data internally, but the actual generation engine in cloud for global access or anything like that. I'm going to open the contracts side by side so we can easily compare them. Right, first very blatant difference is the fixed term versus permanent contract. The wording was updated based on our rules. We scroll down, we see the first clause, the employment contracts for non-fixed term because it's permanent, and here we've got the fixed term for 12 months commencing on Monday. If we scroll down, we see our responsibilities. Initially, I just had 3, and they decided to make me make coffee for the team, which I do not mind. We'll scroll down, excuse me. Article 3 salary, this side we have $100,000. This side, we've got our ridiculous amount, and you see our number to word adornment actually worked, and it looks pretty accurate. We scroll down further, the next thing we expect to see is the clause for the permanent employee, which will not be in this contract because this is a fixed term. If you scroll down this side, we are looking at the permanent employee clause. As you see, the numbering updated sequentially, all the rest of the content will be numbered correctly, no white space, the document still looks correct. And last but not least, we've got the bonus scheme repeater, which is not here because we removed them because the salary is sufficient. While we were looking at this, I received an email to sign the contract we just generated. I'm going to open this for you. Read the instructions, and then we'll look at the contract. Still, fixed term contract. We've got our clauses. I need to make coffee, and I'm getting a pretty good salary. I start on Monday. We scroll down, we don't see any bonus schemes, and it asks me for my signature. Since I have signed it, I have used this before, it knows who I am, it's going to sign it for me. But if you're a first-time signer, you will physically, with your mouse or on your touch device, draw your signature. The document will now be emailed to myself and to HR for filing. To recap, what we've just seen is HR used the current template and connected it to the current system. We then built the rules, the data fields, and the formatting into the template. We then used the digital form to create our bespoke contract for the specific employee, which was then signed and returned to your DMS. I hope this showed you some level of the technical power of DocFusion, and we'll now move over to Q&A. Thanks a lot for your time.
There we go, guys. Thanks. Just gone off mute again. Thanks, Brian and Gerard. Thanks for the demo. I think it's obviously a simpler version of the video that we saw earlier, but I think it clearly explains what the process is and how it works. I think we got some questions in. I know Maggie has been tracking those from our side. So Maggie, do you want to shoot away with the first question that came up?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So the first question is, what is the difference between DocFusion 365 and DocFusion Enterprise? This question comes from Jamie. Brian, do you want to take it?
Yeah, great. I think Jamie has been onto our website because I actually didn't mention the difference, but I'm glad it came up as a question. We developed DocFusion 365 for more the small to medium-sized enterprise who uses Office 365 to a large extent to run their organization. So Office 365 can be downloaded from the Microsoft Product Store. It comes with built connectors to Power Apps, Flow, and SharePoint. The enterprise version is more for organizations that have got big legacy systems in place. And while the functionality in terms of building the connectors, etc., is still there, it just makes for a more complex data-driven implementation. Thanks, Maggie.
All right. This next one is from Richard. How are templates stored in DocFusion?
It's Gerard here. I'll take this one. So we have a role-based version control template repository like we just saw in the demo. In here, we store the various DocFusion assets, such as the templates, output configurations, short-running workflows, etc. The role-based access allows us to do approval-based publications of the templates from one environment to the next, like development to production. It also allows us to configure the roles for the various assets, which means we can separate the role players, such as HR, legal, and marketing, to all work on their own assets independently. When a contract gets generated, these assets will be combined, each from their own area, to form your output document. Thanks.
All right. This next one is from Emily. Does DocFusion support any other output formats except for PDF?
Yes, Gerard, yeah. So even though PDF and DocX are the most popular output formats, DocFusion supports around 15 or so, not 15 or so, we support 15 output formats. So this includes PDF and DocX. We do HTML, we can do plain text. This includes some image formats, some image rendering, which is one of the output stuff. We also support PCL and PostScript. That means we can send documents directly to a printer for automated printing. DocFusion is also able to generate documents in any of these formats on an ad hoc or one-by-one basis, or in batch, which can be thousands of documents, one after another. Thank you.
This next one is from Ryan. Is DocFusion available as a cloud offering or on-site?
Okay, I'll take that one. Yeah, DocFusion is available in the cloud as a software as a service. We also do have an on-premise version, and we do support hybrid cloud as well.
All right. This next one is from Jane. How does DocFusion comply from a data privacy point of view?
So DocFusion itself, the generation engine, does not store any data. So in terms of that, we do comply with privacy because you are still responsible for your own data. So we don't store social security numbers or stuff like that. We store the templates, only the templates, the ones you just saw. So there's no data in there. So when it comes to the templates, the DocFusion is a strongly isolated multi-tenancy engine. So the data, i.e. your contract templates, for each client is segregated into a different database, and that keeps it very secure. We do also conform with the latest security protocols. Thank you.
All right, and I believe this is the last one. What is the pricing model for DocFusion?
Yeah, I'll take that. Somebody always asks that question, eh? Yeah, I got to just mention first, we are a for-profit organization as opposed to a non-profit. And yeah, DocFusion is priced on a tiered basis. And that tiered basis is on the number of pages or number of documents created. So it is pages and documents on a tiered basis against usage.
All right. Thank you. I haven't had any more questions come in, so I think that's all I've got.
Maggie, I did, it's Eric here. I did have a question someone sent me on the side here, just following the demo, Gerard. They just wanted to ask, the actual editing that you were doing, that was in native Word, correct? It's not a special version of Word or anything. It is in the standard Word as a product, correct?
Yeah, so the demo you saw was on the latest version of Word, but we do support a couple of versions back of natively installed normal Word. You do not need anything else except installing the DocFusion plugin, which you get once we license you.
Great.
Perfect.
All right, I think that concludes the session today. I would like to thank Brian and Gerard for joining us. The contact information is on the screen. We will be sending out a recording of this video, of this webinar. The video clip that did not have sound, we'll make sure that there's a link to the original so that obviously you can access that. I think there's the process of getting access to this and having a look at it. Please reach out. We can set up very specific demos or example sets that apply to any one of the use cases you're thinking about. But again, thank you everybody for attending, and we hope the webinar was providing you with some insight on what can be done with automated document management on the front end. Please just, as I said earlier, the most information is available as per the contact screen, websites, etc. We'll see you soon. Keep well.
Thank you very much.